So, this is going to be a spoiler review of episode 5 of Arcane. So, if you haven't seen the series yet, highly recommend you go watch it. This video is going to be here when you get back, so go on and watch it if you haven't. But if you don't care, let's talk about it. So, for a 40-minute series, it seems to go by so freaking quick. Like, especially this episode, not like no time is wasted whatsoever getting from point A to point B, and everything is just like connected in a way where the transition is just so smooth, and it just goes by super quickly. So we start out with a flashback with the young Caitlin Kierman, and she's in a little shooting competition against Chief Grayson, right? Caitlin wins naturally, but Grayson kind of like threw and let Caitlin get it because she felt like she deserved it. And we get a little insight into maybe why Caitlin wanted to become a police officer in the first place. It's not like explicitly said, but maybe just to make the world a better place or something. Well, not the world, make Piltover a better place. Maybe it's as simple as that, or she wanted to become like Grayson. Because Caitlin's backstory, like how she got started, like with the enforcers, was her parents got kidnapped by C, which turned out to be confirmed in the game was actually Camille, and she ended up like tracking them down, getting them back, and that's how she got started. And that fueled her interest in like police work because she was good at it. I'm not sure if that happened in the timeline yet, because from this episode, I got the feeling that Caitlin is kind of like, well, she was always like this, how do I describe it? This simple and linear character, especially in the game, because she's just the cop. Vi has more parents than her, but now it's still, I still get the same impression, but I feel like she's getting layered because this is the episode where she gets to work with Vi. She gets to see the different aspects of Zon since they teamed up. So the episode picks up right where we left off. It's flash. Caitlin and Vi in the prison. Vi doesn't want to have anything to do. She says, "Give Silco a kiss on his bad eye from me." And that gets Caitlin's attention. She's like, "Silco, the industrialist." Vi thinks that Caitlin's a corrupt cop and she clearly works for Silco, but that's not the case. But can you really blame Vi? She doesn't really know that. So anyway, Caitlin ends up showing Vi the pictures she took of the scene of the crime, and Vi immediately recognizes the monkey, that darn monkey, as something that Jinx draws, one of her doodles. And she says that, she could probably help her out with the case, but not from behind bars. So Caitlin goes and gets Vi released. I'm not sure if she actually forged Jace's signature since he's a new council member, or if she legitimately got the signature from Jace, but Vi gets released from prison. And something to note, like just the amount of cruelty they've been treating Vi with in there. They've been giving her talks, which was like implied to be scheduled beatings, like throughout her stay there. And I'm not sure if that was from her bad behavior, probably was, or anything else, just because they're cruel like that. Because Vi has an uncooperative nature, and we know that she attacks any of Silco's men that comes inside the prison. So I'm pretty sure that has a lot to do with it. Especially if you play the game and if you read her dossier in like the game right now. So that's why. But anyway, so they're free and they go jungling. Well, Vi goes jungling. She gets to stretch her legs. Caitlin gets to go down to Zon while Vi's free running. I call it jungling because Vi's doing her thing. She finally gets to stretch her legs, and Caitlin's following because you get to see the difference in experience that the children who grew up in Zon have versus the people who were in Piltover. Vi, even though she's been locked up for, I'm assuming the timeline is at least 5 or 7 years because it's a time skip. She still knows those alleyways and how to traverse like the back of her hand. Whereas Caitlin, gotta climb down real slow. Like, there's no free running. Like Caitlyn, it's just methodically, like getting from point A to point B. Whereas Vi, she just free flows down there, and the sequence is really cool. And she picks up 2 jackets on the way, so that's pretty good. So, yeah. So while they're down there, Vi gets to visit the last drop, and she gets to see the territory, since Vander's gone, completely occupied by Silco, in his henchmen. So with that, they go get something to eat, and Caitlyn's growing a little fed up with Vi. She's a little impatient. She doesn't really know how things work down. And Vi kind of calls her out on it. She's like, listen, you're just used to getting whatever you want. Things don't work the same way things work up in Piltover. They don't work down here in Zon. Like, you have to have like something that people want, right? You have to make them think that you have what they want, right? And it shows. Like, the scene where Vi is like chowing down and she's eating like this grub, like, it looks really good. Like, it's odd food, but I kind of wanted some myself just to try it. It looks really good. She's eating, and after she finishes, she's making a mess. There's like cheese everywhere. The animators did it just to show just like how starved from the typical comforts of Vi was, because she's been locked up. And as she said before, and how anyone can attest to if they've actually been to prison food is absolutely terrible. So, yeah, good on them for that. It made me just watch it, just shout out. But anyway, she gets a tip on where to go, and it leads them to this, this brothel. Brothel we saw in episode 1 when they first went to the underground with the, I think that's a Yordle? I think it's a Yordle. Anyway, the Yordle has a tip on one of Silco's henchmen, who's Silco's number 2, which is not Powder. It's actually Savika, right? And they tell, she tells Vi where to find Savika since she's regular with her. Meanwhile, Caitlyn's getting some experience since Vi told her to chill out and learn how to talk to people and negotiate. Well, not negotiate, how to interrogate properly. And they just so happen to be in a place where she can get that practice, because she gets to learn how to talk to people, her people skill. She doesn't have to be so straight-laced. It's just building that interpersonal skill, like learning how to interrogate without letting the other person know that they're being interrogated, or learning how to get information out of people is what I'm trying to say. So, yeah, and we know Vi, outside of violence, is actually an expert at interrogation. She's also an expert at intimidation, but in her dossier in the game, it says that the inmates who wasn't on her hit list, they were actually it was actually a pleasure to talk to Vi, because she's legitimately a good time. And I really like that Caitlyn is picking up those skills too. So you see the dynamic between these two and how they're learning from each other. Because even Vi, it's understandable, it's her first day out, but she's not one for patience. And it shows, because she leaves Caitlyn behind, even though she should have brought Caitlyn with her from the very start. And Vi's essentially just punished for that. So, later on, when she meets with Savika, and, Vi ganks Savika while she's in the middle of a card game, and the fight is absolutely brutal. Like, you feel every punch, you feel Vi's rage. Savika used to be on Vander, one of Vander's people. But, she betrayed him and went over to Silco's side. And in episode 3, she's the one that pushes Silco out the way. And she gets her arm blown off, and she gets caught in the explosion too. So, and it turned out, that small detail, she actually got a replacement, which would be, I guess, it's not a hex arm. It's more powered by the shimmer, right? So it's kind of like a chem tech, which is kind of like a precursor to Warwick's prosthetic that he gets. So I'm wondering if That's a subtle hint that Warwick might appear in the show at some point or not. I don't know. But we do know that the doctor, I'm just gonna say it's Singed because they haven't name dropped him yet, but I'm just gonna say it's Singed. Singed is still alive. Because Jinx mentioned that, mentions, give the hex core to the doctor because she doesn't want anything to do with it. But I'll get to that. So, Vi gets the upper hand during the fight, despite Civica getting the enhancement from the Shimmer. And she wants to know where her sister Powder is. But Civica, she's like, where are you keeping her? But Civica's like, keeping her. Like, she works with us. She's like a daughter to Silco, and it completely, catches Vi off guard. And she lowers her guard, and that prosthetic actually has a claw attachment to it, and that she uses to stab Vi. And she's gonna get killed, but Caitlyn shows up and shoots the little the Shimmer container off of Civica, and it severely wounds her, because that's kind of what was giving her strength and her adrenaline, and she wanders off. Caitlyn could have killed her right then and there because we know just how good of a shot Caitlyn is. But, she keeps hitting her in the prosthetic to not kill her. She doesn't go for any headshots. Which is strange to say, because Caitlyn and headshots are like peanut butter and jelly. So, yeah. So Civica gets away. Vi's like, she got away, but then Caitlyn snaps back. She's like, not she got away. It's like, now they're gonna know we're here. But Caitlyn rightfully says that, well, you did that. That's your fault. You shouldn't have went alone. And she's right. And we get the, I like the interaction between these two, because Vi is bleeding out. And she calls Kate, she's kind of warming up to Caitlyn now, and she calls her Cupcake. And Caitlyn's like, don't call me that. My name's Caitlyn. And I like how that's a reference to the cupcakes Caitlyn has on her little snap traps, the Yordo snap traps, which is her W ability that she has in the game. So I thought that was a little nice nod to yep, Cupcake. You kind of get the reference if you play it, but if you didn't know, now you know. But yeah. So they wander off, and that's kind of the end of the Caitlyn and Vi storyline right now. So a couple other threads. I'm going to touch on them. Marcus is going to get what's coming to him. Since the explosion and the murder of those 6 officers, the same ones Caitlyn was with in episode 4, he's starting to feel the pressure now, especially now that Jace has risen to power as the 8th Chancellor, and they've given him pretty much domain and dominion over the city's protection. Jace is starting to crack down on the corruption that's running through the city, that's coming in and out of their hex gates. And I like how everything's connected back to Jinx because of her. Things are just falling apart on a mass scale, but Silco continues to defend her. So anyway, Marcus is starting to feel the pressure. At the funeral, he visits Officer Grayson's grave, and when he has a daughter, asks, who's that, Daddy? And she's like, a good woman. But yeah, he's in over his head. He's starting to feel pressure from Silco. Silco's not really interested in working with him, just keeping him on the leash, and keeping him kind of close. What else? Oh, and during their second meeting, Silco kind of calls him out, when he's like, you have to give me something or else they won't get off my back. Silco's like, oh, the firelights were involved, and here's your proof. He confidently tosses Marcus a grenade, and he's like, what, are you gonna try something and be the hero that you are in your head? Marcus knows he's wrong. He's a corrupt cop, and he's pretty much in over his head. There's nothing he can do. He imagines himself pulling the pin on the grenade and blowing them both up, but he's a coward. He is. He wouldn't do it. So he just walks out with his tail between his legs, and that's the last we see of him. So, Silco's he's tired, and Jinx was watching the entire time. He's asking Jinx how long until the hex core that she stole his weapon. Jinx. Let me cut to Jinx's point of view first, before I continue with that. Jinx has been working on the Hex Core. Like I said before in episode 4, she stole the Hex Core in Jace's notes. And we already know that Jinx is mechanically inclined, which is why Ahsoka had to work on her gadgetry all the time. She's a good shot, and she's a mechanic. And extremely intelligent, which she's shown that since she was a child, right? She's been working on the Hex Core. She's not only able to understand, but interpret Jace's notes and how to apply it. Since everything that you see in her little makeshift lab, she built it herself, so that's pretty cool. So she's actively trying to harness the power of the Hex Core so it can be weaponized. And as I said before, she has little dolls of her dead family inside of her room. Flagger and Mike. And they're just chilling there. So when Jinx fires up the Hex Core in her little machine, she starts freaking out and she has a panic attack and she starts crying. She's like, "I'm sorry, it wasn't my fault, I'm so sorry," and she runs away. And it should be noted, like, the little items that fall out of this box are: 1, the little flare Vi told Powder to light wherever she's lost, just light it up and she'll find her. So that's being set up, and the little rabbit, which represents her innocence, or rather the day that her innocence died, I guess, when she killed her family. So Jinx is scared of Hex Tech in general. And during the scene where Jinx is talking with Silco, Silco is placing so much trust in Jinx to get this done. She even says it. He's like, "Jinx, you're the only person I can trust with this," right? But Jinx is like, "Just give it to the doctor. Like, I can't do it. Just give it to the doctor and be done." But Silco's not having it, because he knows that's an excuse, because he believes that she's more capable than she thinks she is. Good parenting by Silco, right? Really good parenting, because he's like, "I'm asking you." So, in order to help Jinx with that, Silco takes her to the lake where he was reborn as the man he is today, and baptizes himself again and baptizes Jinx again. The position these two are always in is really kind of sus, but I keep having to remind myself, okay, it's a father-daughter relationship, right? Right? And it is. So, in order to kill, Silco says, we have to kill Powder for good, for you to be the person that you need to be, which is Jinx. Jinx is beautiful, Jinx is perfect. Powder is weak, right? So he baptizes her and Jinx goes under the water. And that's the last we see of her until the end. She's been baptized. I still think she's Powder. She's not Jinx yet, right? And I think that flare is going to be important. Of course, it's being set up as a Chekhov's gun. It's been shown again, so it's going to be used at some point. I'm guessing it's going to be during episode 3, because all this is building towards is Vi and Powder's reunion, right, with each other. And those things that she has, that flare is her way of reconciling with the past, and that's going to happen. So, yeah. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's going to be dope. But, I believe the last plot point, Jace and Victor, actually. So, time is a theme that's being brought up, right? So, ever since Jace has become counselor, it's only been a day in the universe. He's been... Alright, Jace said Jace and Victor got into a small little argument because Victor was upset how Jace didn't reveal the inventions that they and apparently these two made an oath that they would better the lives of the common people, especially the people of Zara, Victor's from. But but Jace didn't really like follow through with what they said they were gonna do. Victor is a person who's like, all right, we have to make changes and we have to do it now. And I kind of see where Victor's coming from, because that cough I was concerned about, like in episode 4, that turned out to be something very serious for Victor. He has an illness, and Victor's dying pretty much from it. Something happened in Zahn, I guess, when he was young, and probably an industrial accident or something, not just like a birth defect. Probably legitimately he was in an accident, probably a chemical accident, and it probably affected him in his body. So his body's failing him, which is why he's so frail. So yeah, Victor works tirelessly. Like we see the contrast between the two. Whereas Jace feels like he has time and he can do these things. Victor throws himself mindlessly into his work, because what else is he gonna do? It's either work or die. Those are Victor's only options. So when Victor says, what? We don't have time. We have to make changes for the better, for the betterment of the people now. He wants to make something out of his life before he goes. And it also explains why Victor doesn't put himself in the limelight, because in his eyes, he's going to be gone soon. So it's not like it's going to even matter. All he cares about is the work, right? Real scientists. What do we call it? Sigma grind set. Like, whereas Jace, it's confirmed Jace fucks, but whereas Jace is over getting laid by Counselor Medarda, Victor's still working in his lab. He has an offer of human connection with this girl, Miss Young, right? That's what he called her. She's like, hey, why don't we walk home together? But Victor's like, no, I'm gonna be busy in the lab, so I'm gonna sleep here. She's like, but isn't there, there's always tomorrow, right? And Victor's like, no. And you understand it, because Victor, every second for him counts, and he might not have to, and it shows during the scene. Like, this is like a little what's it called? It's not a montage. I guess you'll call it a montage of Jace getting laid, enjoying his life, whereas Victor spends his life in the lab working on the hex core she's been building. Hex core, that's gonna be important. That's like Victor's whole thing. So Victor has another attack, and while he's working, after he sends Miss Young home, after Miss Young goes home, and he spits up blood. Now Victor passes out from this, because this happened earlier in the episode where he coughed up blood, right? He passes out, but something interesting happens with the hex core. It actually like interacts with Victor's blood that's on the dashboard, and incorporates it into itself, and then you get to see some type of sequence happening where it's like, I'm guessing it's merging with Victor's DNA and changing it in some way. That's my interpretation of what is happening. But something to know is, even though it was something cool, it also had sinister undertones because of how it looked. Especially the light at the end, which turned from blue to purple, which is, signified that, this magic isn't as innocent as it seems, because in the world of Runeterra, magic is everything. Magic is everywhere. It makes up their world. Like, their world is magic, right? But where does that magic come from? Where are they drawing from? Where's the arcane being drawn from? And I think it's the void. I think that's what we're building up to, because even in Jace's notes, when Jinx is reading the book, she's like, boring, I do this, I do that, and it's supposed to open up a gateway to the realm of the heebie-jeebies. And when she said that, I was like, okay, it's the void. But does Jace know that? Right? So, it's most definitely void related. It has to be. Which only, solidifies, Primer's, perspective of things and how dangerous magic is, and these people want to put it in the hands of civilians. No bueno. But yeah, he wakes up with Jace by his side. I thought it was cool, Jace sacrificed his time with Medarda to go to essentially his brother. Really, they're brothers now, and he just wants to be by his side. And when Victor acts like, when he can't even like bring himself to look at him. Really, he's like, the doctors, they said it's bad, Victor. And then Victor's just like, how much time do I have left? And that's where we leave off with these two. Well, Victor's storyline at least. On the other side, Jace's story. Jace has made enemies of a lot of people, specifically the council that he's on, because Jace realizes there's been a lot of discrepancies in errors in the shipping manifests that have been for the Zeppelins that have been going through the hex gates carrying cargo. And the people that have, there's corruption in the council, right? So the counselors, some of the counselors, all of the counselors minus Heimerdinger, has actually been receiving illegal goods, right? In addition to Silco's own operation that's been happening as well. And Marcus is on the other end of that too, which is why he's so worried. Which is why he felt pressured in this episode, because Jace is gonna sniff him out eventually. So yeah, Medarda puts Jace on game about what's going on, and Jace picks it up really quick. Like, Medarda's teaching him the game, and while they're at the opera house, he's like, okay, Jace, listen, your house is in trouble, you've made enemies, and she's pointing out like the relationships between all the counselors, like, oh, those two counselors may not like each other, but they share this exquisite ale, which they can't get anymore because you put restrictions on the hex gates and whatnot. And she's just pointing out these relationships, and Jace is like, so what am I supposed to do? And Medarda's like, you need allies, Jace. You need allies on your side, Jace. So essentially, one of the counselors comes in, and Medarda's like buttering her up, doing the work and whatever, and Jace steps in, and he's like, you know what? We might have opportunities for people who are on my side and share my vision. And if you were to join me, I'll consider you a Hex Tech partner or something like that, which means you'll be entitled to benefits. Since Jace controls the Hex Gates, he's technically the most powerful man in Piltover, because he controls the supply lines and access to trades. Like, nothing comes in, nothing comes out without his permission, or nothing comes in, nothing comes out without his permission, unless they just want to take the long way. If they want the shipments to take months instead of days, then they're free to do that. But yeah. So Jace plays the game, and while something I like, Heimerdinger's there as well. Heimer's the only one that's not corrupted by greed and vanity. He's just there to have a good time, and while that's happening, while he's enjoying himself, it's kind of saying that Heimer is blind to the goings on that it's happening right around him in his own court, right? So while Jace is in the back making friends, striking deals and whatnot to get people on his side, which also secures him funding to do what he wants to do, right? Because I feel like that's going to be important, because during every decision that they've made, they've always voted on him. And what Medarda does is she gets people on her side subtly, right? And Jace is just learning the game, and he's doing the same thing. They aren't as altruistic as Heimerdinger is, and I feel like that's Heimer's own fault for not like realizing that. And it also shows while he's sitting there enjoying like opera, not a care in the world, there are people suffering. And for all his talks of like science being this amazing thing and making people's lives better and being innovative, what has Heimerdinger really done as the city's founder to reconcile the relationship between the people? Like, I hate Heimerdinger's, like, low-key, I kind of hate Heimerdinger's guts, but I also understand where Heimer's coming from. But at the same time, what has Heimer really done? And it's frustrating. And I kind of see, like, where it's going, because I feel like another vote is going to come up pretty soon. I just can't imagine like what the. I just feel like that's building towards something now that Jace essentially has the rest of the members of the council in his pocket, right? Along with Medarda. But I feel like it's gonna work. It's gonna work against Heimerdinger at some point because something of note. Like whenever Jace needs to pass like something like a new technology or something that he wants the public, he'll have majority. Heimerdinger has been the one that's been in his way, him and Victor's way since the start of the series. Really, like if it were up to Heimerdinger, Piltover wouldn't have Hex Tech at all. Which begs the question, like, where does Heimerdinger interest lie? So, yeah. Jace is technically the most powerful man in Piltover. And something to note about Counselor Medarda. She's such an interesting character. Like, she has Jace wrapped around her finger, right? And I'm still trying to figure out what her end game is, because during the first couple episodes where we meet her, she's like, she wants something to put Piltover on the map, right? Small stuff, small little dialogue cues like that. I'm like, okay, but why do you want Piltover on the map? Like, all right. And even though she's the richest woman in Piltover, she's also the poorest Medarda. And in this episode, she said that Medardas are people who hardly give back down and like really take. And I'm just thinking, is this woman Noxian? Like, I got the impression that she might be Noxian. She might be Noxian because in the lore we know that Noxians they infiltrate places they think might be valuable to the Empire, and they pretty much like they have like diagrams, they have city, anything that can help in the Noxian invasion, they do it. And the way a character tried to do it was getting into what's it called? Getting accepted as not a patron. They get a patron to sponsor their work. That's how they get connected with these other houses. But in the lore, Caitlyn actually caught one of them and sent them back, killing them. And that turned out to be Darius's daughter, which we know from Darius's lore. But anyway, that's just something interesting I think about. I think she might be Noxian. But yeah. I think that's the only thing I had for mail. And I think that's it for the series. Well, at least this episode. So I can't wait to see what's going to happen in episode 3. I mean, obviously, Caitlyn, Vi, and Jinx are gonna meet Powder again, right? I wonder if the Firelights are gonna come up again, because they didn't appear in this episode, and I still strongly believe that the Firelight leader is Echo. The reasons I've stated before, like he carries a pocket watch, a clock. Echo's always been associated with time. When we first met Echo, he was fixing a clock, and he even wears a red scarf, and he fights like Echo, so I think it's Echo. As for Jace's story, Victor. Speaking of Victor, I wonder if the Hex Core actually changed Victor as well, because I know it took his blood into it, and it changed. I guess it was DNA that was in that. So I'm wondering, wait, did it affect just the blood, or did it affect Victor as well since he was near it? It might not have actually, because he woke up in the hospital. But whatever. Yeah. There are just so many plot threads that still need to be resolved, and Marcus is gonna get what's coming to him. And Vi's wounded, so I'm wondering what they're gonna do about it, because it looks pretty bad. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh, and at the end, Jinx actually managed to make a breakthrough with the Hex Core. So that's cool. She got over her fear, so she's not afraid anymore, and that makes her dangerous. So can't wait to see where that goes. So yeah, so I think that flare is going to be used sooner rather than later. So might be next episode or whatever, but it should be cool. Can't wait to see it. So I will see you then during the next one. Let me know what you thought about this episode. You know, comment down below. And dislike the video too. And all that. So I'll see you in the next one.